Not making $1 million a year is costing you plenty. The two business guys talk about that coming up next. This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. So, Rob, I heard this just the other day, and I am so fired up about it. I think it's going to be a difference maker in 2023, right? So it says, here's what the quote: how much is not making $1 million a year costing you?
Interesting.
How much is not making $1 million a year? Now, of course, you could put any number to that. Right now, and here's the rest of it. It said, if you're making $50,000, now I heard this. If you're making $50,000, then not making $1 million a year is costing you $950,000. Not figuring out how to. The power of that statement, right? When I heard it, it was like when the person had mentioned it, he said it hit him like, you're right. And if we can start putting into, I think, people's consciousness that the loss language, right? Use loss language. Hey, this is what you're losing by not making that.
Right. This is whatever your goal you're doing is costing you.
That's right. Use costing you. Do you want that to cost you? Now it's just in my crawl.
Yeah.
So 2023 is about not learning how to make X is cost. And I don't like stuff to cost me.
Exactly.
I have an aversion to it. So I'm wondering, I'm pumped
I think
already.
that works. Yeah, I think that definitely, like, just listening to it, I can see how that would hit you specifically, because costs are like evil for you. And that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of it, just as I'm processing this right now, I think when you hear that, it makes perfect sense, right? It's just basic arithmetic, right? If you're making this much and you're not making this much, the difference, the delta, is what you're losing, right? But because I think something
you're not learning how to
exactly, and I think that's the key, right? It's because that's also, the flip side of that is, what is the thing that you have to do to get that, and is it worth the $950,000 or whatever to do that, right? That's the question. But the point that I think is really important in there is, there's a lot of people that don't look at it from the perspective of, I can learn how to do this.
Right.
And that, I think, is a thing that holds us back, right? Like, I was doing this thing because one of my goals, right, is to have a net worth of $5 million. That's one of the things that I've put kind of on my vision board, and I've set it up there. And I looked at it and it's like, okay, if I want to have a net worth of $5 million, first thing is I got to get rid of all my debt, and then I've got to be able to put away $500,000 a year over 10 years. So if I did the math, and I was like, I'm 43 now. If I can do this by the time I'm 50, and for me, it's by the time I'm 55, right? If I can have a net worth of $5 million by the time I'm 55, all I would have to be able to do is put away or earn above spending $500,000 a year. Boom, in 10 years we do it. And when I broke it down like that, it was like, oh, that's not as difficult, right, as I thought it was, trying to do it all at once. And I think what a lot of people do is, and this is that, I remember that book I told you, the difference between millionaires and the middle class. What a lot of people do is they look at the right now. They can see 2 weeks ahead, 30 days ahead, at the most, maybe a quarter ahead. But many people struggle to see year over year and see the growth that can happen year over year. And in the book, one of the things he talked about was, rich people look at year over year, 5 years to 5 years, decade to decade, and that's the comparisons that they do. So, for example, if somebody's stuck and they're making $50,000 a year this year, they go and they say, how can I turn that 50 into 100 next year? Right? If I've learned how to make $50,000 a year, I know I can do this. How can I double that? How can I move that? And when you look at something like that, right, the process of compounding, if you go from 50,000 to 100,000 one year, then you can go from 100 to 200 the next year. You go from 200 to 400, 400 to 800. In 5 years, you're at $1 million.
Sure. Yeah.
But you only doubled what you did. Now, you can shorten that right? And I know you got some tricks and some courses and some things that you probably haven't looked at where you can even shorten that. But if you could just do that, right? If you could just do that doubling, and that was one of the things that I really focused on in my business over the last year, and it was crazy. That's exactly how it happened. Like, we looked at where we were last year, and we were like, and we weren't even trying to double. We were just trying to increase by about 50%, but we wound up increasing by about 70% year over year by setting that target. And the crazy thing is, where we are now, 4 years in, we're going on our 5th year of being in business, is 10 times where we were in the first year.
Mm-hmm. So are you saying then that it becomes target specific, right? First of all, let's and I think a lot of this is the motivation, right? Mm-hmm. I'm looking at what is going to pump me up, what is going to get me fired up. And I know what works for me.
Yeah.
It is, wait a minute, these things are costing me, and they're not bringing, what I says, you can't bring a cost into the joint unless you got revenue and profit with you.
Coming with you, right?
Hey, friends, let's go to this party. My name is Cost. And I'm like, you can't get in unless you got revenue. Where's revenue and profit? So if we think about it like that, and if we're sharing this with everyone out there, if you're listening to this, I want you guys to think about this, or you all to think about this. That's what it's costing you. I'm literally starting off a lot of my coaching meetings now with that concept. And you've spoken to this a little bit too in some webinars that we've done. Mm-hmm. Here's the cost of not doing an action.
Yes.
Because you can see it. In other words, so now do you want to continue with these costs or this pain, this whatever?
That's the key.
And then when the people start going, no, it says, well, okay. And then you go in another series of questions that naturally lead people to say, I need that product. I personally think that's brilliant. It's just brilliant. And I've been teasing it out a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I had a coaching meeting the other day. And so the young lady said, well, here's what I want to build. And the first thing I said is, what does not having that cost you?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I says, well, how do you feel every single day that you're not achieving that outcome, that you're not working toward it? She was like, I got her so fired up that I didn't have to say, well, here are some things you could do. I literally said, hey, what do you, and now that you're in this, you're whipped into this fury, what are your next moves? What are you doing next?
There you go.
Right. And now she was searching. Well, who do you know? I says, well, I know somebody that can, build you a $99, website, or $300 website, whatever it is. You can use this if you feel pretty confident to plug and play, you can use it. So now she was like, I need to just look around. And that's the exact motion, emotion that I wanted to have.
Exactly. And it's in science, right? Like, and so I didn't come up with it. I learned it from a mentor of mine who I thought it was brilliant when I saw them do it. And so I learned how to do it, right? The whole idea is this: as human beings, we are more driven to avoid pain than to move towards pleasure.
That's it.
That's the whole thing. It's part of our wiring. Right. I talk to my students a lot of times about, we have to understand pain as a positive, right? There's a positive reason for pain, and pain is designed to tell us something about the world that we would not otherwise be able to see. Right. And generally, pain is telling you that whatever course you're on, you need to alter, because continuing in that pathway, there are going to be catastrophic consequences.
Isn't that for anything? Right. Yeah. I was the other day, I was my arms are hurting, elbows or something like that, right? And I'm thinking, and I wasn't complaining. I was just saying, okay, my body's giving me some information. So what did I do? I went and picked up my weights, right? And then I did to failure series, right? Anybody out there in the weightlifting world knows what to failure. And now I'm bending my arm. I'm like, I don't feel that pain anymore. So my body was telling me, if you continue not working out, because I hadn't worked out in a minute, then I'm going to send some signals to you,
right,
that you can ignore and be uncomfortable. So this is that concept. Now think about this. Ryan Moran, I had wrote down his name wrong, Jason Moran. He talks about this in his book, right? What was the name of his book, Rob?
12 months to a million.
12 months to a million. And he talked about the 4 product idea, right? 4 products, each selling 25 items a day at an average price of $30 and for 365 days will earn you $1,095 in 1 year.
Yep.
Now, you can change it for products, for services, and you start going, wait a minute, for products? Yeah. Do they have to be your products, everyone listening out there?
Negative.
Right. So in the description field, put this, or not in the description field, but in your comments. What 4 things could you do? 4 things, 4 products could you do to get to selling 25 items, 25 units, whatever you want to call them, at an average price of $30 every single day? What would you have to do?
Exactly. And remember, this is
not take vacation. No.
Right. But remember, this is math. So for those of you all that are like, but I don't know if I could do 4 things, understand that if you can do 2 things that are selling on average at $60, same math. If you can do 1 thing that's selling on average $120, same math. Right. So for those of you all that are out there trying to figure it out, don't allow the 4 things to scare you. The key is, how do you get something that you can start selling and doing 25 sales a day at least?
Yeah, we can show you the 4 things. That's what I do all day, every day.
Exactly. Right? There's a whole bunch of things out there, but for those of you all that's your sticking point, don't get stuck on the fact that you got to do 4 things. 4 things is an easier way to do it, because once you learn how to do it with 1, doing it with multiple is not difficult. But I think that piece that when we talk about what do you need to do to make $1 million, I love the question that you started with, which is, what is not making $1 million costing you, right? Because that's something I started to think about recently too. So I know you thought that I was going to be kind of contrarian on this, but more along the lines, there's a balance to it, right? Because you have to always ask yourself, what is it going to cost you to make that $1 million? But you also have to ask yourself, right? This is the reason why we do the pain thing. It's not just a either or, right? It's costing you to make the $1 million, and it's costing you to not make the $1 million. And you have to compare those costs to see which one is worth it. And that was something I was really thinking about, because like I said, getting out of debt, living the lifestyle that where I don't have to worry about money anymore is one of the big things that I'm trying to get to, right? And it's interesting because I started thinking about all of the concerns, all of the issues, all the questions. I went back through my phone, and I'm always doing kind of doing stuff to kind of memorialize what's my vision, what am I trying to do, why am I trying to do it, all the rest of that. And I went through the big vision, right? My 20-year life vision. And I was like, oh, here's some stuff that I'm not able to do because I'm only playing here instead of playing there. And when I started looking at it, it gave me different perspective on what's next and how to do it. Because I know for me, a lot of times what happens when you start to move into that next threshold, right? Like I'm working with an organization, and because I'm a vendor in this organization now, and they're doing leadership training and things like that, and this is a $30 billion a year company, right? Like this is a big organization. Now I'm on their vendor list. So I just got in my email a RFP, a request for proposal from this company, completely unsolicited. I'm like, whoa, right? Like this is interesting. This is different. Work is coming to me now. I'm not having to go get work. And there's a twinge of, can I do that? Is that too much? Am I ready for that? Like there's a doubt there, even though I know I can make it happen. And what I have to do is to put, if I don't do this, if I don't figure out how to make it happen, how am I keeping myself from this dream? How am I not getting there? How am I not doing what I need to do? And like, I talk in my book a little bit about how there are 3 different causes for procrastination, right? One of them is the fear of failure that people struggle with, right? I don't want to mess up. I don't want to, mess it up. All the rest of that. Another one is overwhelm. But the third one, a lot of people don't talk about, is the fear of success. Right?
We talked about that here on the pod.
On the pod, right? Like there's a change that happens to you when you're successful. You have to live differently. You have to be a different person at success. And some of the times, I catch it with myself all the time. I'm like, am I ready to be that person?
That's where I would add that a fourth fourth, the fear of the responsibility of it. You now have to fulfill. Now you got the success, you got the fear of failure, right? And then you got, who do I have to maintain becoming?
Yeah, that's the whole change, right? Once you're successful, you're a different person.
Yeah.
And are you able to maintain, like you said, that being that person? Are you able to be a success, right? Because a lot of us are more comfortable with being a striver, are more comfortable with being a failure even than we are with being that person, than
Isn't
be
that interesting?
with stepping into that space, right? I've always admired, like, one of my heroes is Muhammad Ali. And one of the reasons that Muhammad Ali was a hero to me, more than, the stuff, the heart that he had for people and the way that he treated people and all the rest of that. But one of the reasons he's a hero to me is because he was strong enough to believe in himself enough to tell everybody, right? Like, I was just reading, he has his poem, "I Was the Greatest." He said, I said I was the greatest even before I knew I was, right? Like the fact that he had that ability to see the future and to believe it so wholeheartedly that he was willing to stake his reputation, his body, his livelihood, everything on that belief. He was the greatest of all time before he ever did the work to be the greatest of all time. And it just kind of encapsulates what one of my mentors told me is the concept of be, do, then have. You have to become the person that's doing the thing way before you do the thing.
Yeah. It's the,
you have to do the thing way before you have the things that are the results of that. And like, he's the greatest example of that. But it takes a tremendous amount of courage to step into that success. Like, and he walked, I'm so pretty, I'm the best, I'm the greatest. The champ should be pretty like me. That's how, like, the way that he would talk endeared him to people because it wasn't an act. Another person that I love that's like this, if you ever watch Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, like, he is one of those people that, yes, Prime Time is a character, right? But it's not far off from the man, Deion Sanders, and what he truly believes about himself and what he truly believes about people. And that's infectious, right? That's the height of, as Marianne Williamson called it, right? Like, shining our light, right? She, in her poem, she says, who our deepest fear is that we are, is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. We ask ourselves, who am I to be glorious, to be talented, to be beautiful, to be amazing? And the real question is, who are you not to be? And I feel like, Deion Sanders, Muhammad Ali, there are people like that step into that space, that step into that spotlight, that are who they are. They know who they are, and they be that person. And it shines a different light. It shows you a different thing. It's not the people that are trying, not the people that's putting on airs, not the people that's flossing for the camera. None of that. That's not what I'm talking about. I ain't talking about the fake stuff. I'm talking about the real ones, the ones that walk out there and they like, I'm gonna put it on the line and I know who I am. Right. There's something about that.
If you're hearing this and you're not inspired, I don't know what to say. You should be, and this is one of the reasons we do the pod, because we want to hear the inspiration that we've come across every week. We want to share it with you. This may be the time where you're hearing this and you go, I needed what they said right now. And had already says, I don't care if I'm getting, 2 listeners or 2 million, if we can be of inspiration to you. Right. And like the starfish that got thrown back in the water. Well, I saved that one. Right?
Yeah,
I helped that one. That kind of a thing, right? When there's 1 million more, well, those 7 that I'm gonna send in gonna make it.
Right.
So,
and that means the world to them.
And that's why I kind of had whatever tip and trick and hack, whatever it is that you have to do, because we know what motivates us. I remember watching some David Goggins stuff, right? The You Can't Hurt Me fame. And he's running and he's looking in the camera and he's like saying, this is what I gotta do just to keep his frame right. Right. He's jacking himself up. Tony Robbins talked about it. Frame changing, state changing. And, when you're finding yourself in that rut, or you find yourself with that twinge of doubt, then you can say, well, remember, we're acting as if we're already that person. Acting as if is powerful. Well, I remember when I started doing marketing, I had to change my own reference. I was like, I got no evidence that this is true. I don't do it now. Blah, blah. And then I says, start using the power of the great I am, right? Start using I am language. And then I start saying, I now am. And then I started becoming that, to your point earlier. I started literally thinking about all things related. My reticular activated system just started bringing more information to me. Yes. I am. And that's what I do to change a perspective or a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I've become,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm tweaking it again. I'm saying I am now,
Mm-hmm.
visualizing hundreds of thousands of dollars entering into my bank account. I even say which one.
Mm-hmm.
Huntington Bank over here, right? I say it and literally see it. Got the vision board.
Yep.
This is something that I hadn't done before, and on some level, you'll start arguing with yourself. Well,
yes.
You kind of went overboard there. It's like, you're not. You do know how you live, right? I mean,
yeah.
I
think that's so important what you just did right there, and I just want to make sure everybody's there. Like, a lot of times, I notice when I hear people talk about affirmations and all the rest, especially people that's made it. What you just did there is so powerful because it reminds everybody and it helps everybody to see that even when you get here, you still have the doubts, you still have the bad self-talk. It's not as if that goes away. So don't think that that's what's keeping you from being successful. It's that you make a choice when you're having the doubts and the bad self-talk and all the rest of this type of stuff. You make the decision to listen to the other side and to double down, to say more. And even when you have plenty of evidence, because it's not as if those of you out there listening don't have evidence right now of your power, of your ability, of your right. The fact that you're listening to this podcast, the fact you're interested in these things means that you've done some things in your life that show you that they got you thinking that you could even possibly maybe create a business or get yourself out of that. Right. So understand that we, at every level of the game, we don't pay attention to, or we, dismiss the evidence of our greatness in favor of the evidence of our mediocrity. Right. And I love the fact, Randy, what you just did, because you're like, even at this level, even though I'm able to manifest this, even though I know it works, I still sometimes have that mediocrity Absolutely. Voice that's trying to chime in. And thank you for being real with that, because I think a lot of people
that's real talk.
That's
real talk, everyone. And then you start going, I was just suffering from, and I says, why am I feeling a certain way today? So instead of saying, I'm feeling a little blue today, I says, something must be, I'm right on the edge of a breakthrough. I literally told Linda this. I says, I'm on the edge of a breakthrough. I said, something's getting ready to get left behind and it's pulling me. In other words, an old way of thinking, an old way of being, right? It's like a limb that's saying, I know I'm not serving you anymore, but I don't want to leave your body. And I'm saying, yeah, but you got to, because I've got to grab onto some different rings in life. So I turned it. I was feeling it. And then I says, so I doubled down literally in the store, walking through the store, I am now. I just started, doing those affirmations and just bringing it. I am now seeing it. And then I started literally feeling better. When you have that anticipation, it's like one of the affirmations that I constantly rant is something amazing is happening to me. Something amazing is going to happen. So that's the anticipation. Something amazing is going to happen. So I started looking around, right? It's like, well, where is it? What? And then I said something now. Something amazing is happening to me right now. Changes state.
Yep.
So and Tony, if you're listening to this, Tony Robbins, right? It works. Change your state by. You know what I mean? Because you can't hold both thoughts at the same time. And
right.
I pull myself out of it. Start feeling better. Start looking around. And man, I'm telling you, something happened. I'll give you an example. That same day that I was feeling this way, I was like, man, I said, man, there must be a big change happening because I'm feeling a little blue about some stuff. And I was like, something amazing. I says, I am now experiencing, and start doing my affirmation. I go to the checkout and the lady's pressing the button. Right. She got my little card that says I should maybe get a discount. I don't know. And I'm looking at the price. I says, something amazing happened to me right now. Something financially amazing is happening to me right now. And she couldn't press the button. It was like beep, beep. So the lady comes over and helps her. I get a discount. And they says, well, there was something in the system that hadn't given you your discount and it wouldn't let me go forward. I says, yeah, because something amazing always happens to me. Something financially advantageous always happens to me.
Yep.
Right. And then I just left and smiling.
Yep. And it's so interesting when you look at the science behind the reticular activating system, right? Because the funny thing about life and the funny thing about our experiences is that we are limited in what we perceive that's happening at all times around us. Right. Yeah. And I'll get the numbers wrong, but it's something to the order of your brain processes like 10 billion input bits of information per second. And of that 10 billion, your prefrontal cortex or your conscious mind can only handle about 1 million per second. Right. And so when you're looking at that disparity, just, that's what is that, 1,000 to 1 difference in what's in existence versus what you're perceiving is in existence. And in that space, out of the other 1,000 things that you're not perceiving, how many of them are positive things that are beneficial to your life, that are showing you that you're on the right path, right? But we're not primed to see them because our filter only lets in what we tell it to let in, right?
The brain says, I'm looking for danger.
Exactly. And that's its natural setting. Its natural setting is what's bad, what's dangerous, what's not going to make us survive. Exactly. You have to, and as a matter of fact, the science says that we're 6 to 9 times more likely to see things that are dangerous than we are to see positive things. Right. Yeah. So as we go forward, what Randy's talking about is reprogramming, changing your state. It's telling your mind, hey, I got it. Survival is awesome. Right. And I still want to see all the negative, dangerous stuff. Yes, I do want to be aware of that, because if you're not surviving, you can't thrive. Right. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm increasing the amount of positive stuff that I see. So I'm going to focus on that so that I can be more aware of it. That's and evidence. The more aware of it that you are, the more of it you begin to see. And it's not that the negative stuff goes away, and you see it when you need to. But what you start to realize is you don't need to be in survival mode all the time. Right. Thriving mode has as its floor survival mode. Thriving mode just pays attention to everything else. And when survival is necessary, it pops in.
How powerful is that? And that brings us full circle, everyone. Why you're now telling your mind, hey, do you realize by not making X, whatever your number is, 200 grand and you're making 30, or $1 million, you're making 30, it's costing you why? That's the danger that the brain says, okay, we can't keep taking these costs.
Exactly.
And then the brain goes, well, what evidence? Well, you're listening to a channel that's showing you some evidence, showing you some math, inspiring you, right? And then we start going, and then you go and do a couple of things because we can guide you along, right? You know, hit us up, we can guide you along, we can show you the way and all this kind of stuff. And then you start seeing the evidence. Now the brain is going, the RAS system, the reticular activating system goes, it's around the corner. Yeah, it's right. It's right there. I saw it. I saw a glimpse of it. Is this deja vu? Maybe, because we gave you a glimpse. We showed you how it's possible. We showed you people that are doing it. We showed you the spreadsheet. And we showed you some math, and we gave you ideas. And now you're going, well, let's go do that. Because I can't keep taking these costs. The cost of living not the way you want to live. The cost of not feeding the family the way you want to feed them. The cost of your woman or your man looking at you like, we need some more money up in this house. Those become the powers that can propel you.
Yes.
Right? The cost of not using your gifts.
Yes.
If you're biblical thinking, God says, I gave you some talents and they're buried. Are you kidding me right now?
And your gifts will make room for you.
We're hitting all the cylinders, y'all, because this is the stuff that once we start motivating ourselves with the kind of information like that can be the difference. And you go, what happened? What happened in 2023? You were just an ordinary person. And all of a suddenly in 1 year, now you're on the circuit talking about, well, I started changing the way my mind saw things, things as this is costing me. And I kept saying, I didn't want these costs. So then I start finding evidence that I could do something different. And next thing you know, you did. You put in the work. I'll give you an example and we can close with this, Rob.
Yep.
I can't say how I like Floyd Mayweather, because he was he got some activities and some actions that you're like, dude, you don't do that. But anyway, but then I had to admire the fact that his life was working out, so he never got out of shape. And his evidence, his record showed, as a result of always being ready, I always won. So when he brags and boasts and says, I'm the greatest, as evidenced by the work I put in,
right,
and the fact that I don't let people beat up on me.
Yep.
Now imagine you doing something and Rob, this right here, man, is another thing that's stuck in my cross. So when we say to you, oh, it's right there, but you go, well, I'm not putting in that kind of work. I'm asking, well, what are you doing that's not going toward that? And then I'm asking you to stop. And I'm saying just this for X amount of days so you can build momentum, right? So I got this 2023, this I'm going all in doing something. I'm not going to say what it is yet, y'all, because I want to show you the evidence of it being true after it's done. Something every single day I'm doing. And in my mind, I'm thinking, if I do this every single day, the evidence should prove to me that I can accomplish the other part of that. If I do something every day, right? Now, we groom ourselves every day. Well, some of us do. We groom, we brush our teeth, we do a thing every day. And as a result, we're not walking around looking crazy, or our teeth aren't all messed up, or whatever it is. So if that works, I've decided to go and get to that $1 million, get to that 200,000, get to that 100,000, whatever it is your number is. And I did this thing every day. The rest should work. That's my hope for you. And that's my call to you.
Yes.
Will you
awesome,
answer?
Brother. Awesome.
Will you answer? Rob, that's all I got. What you got for him? You got to hit him with something?
Hey, no, I think you did it perfectly. That right there. I like it. All right, everyone. We'll see you on the next podcast. Have a great one, everybody.